Now, members of the House of Representatives were divided over a motion seeking to ask the Independent National Electoral Commission yesterday to deregister political parties who failed to win at least one seat in the national or state houses of assembly in the last general elections. While some of the lawmakers questioned the power of INEC to deregister the political parties, others were of the opinion that it was necessary to investigate whether or not such powers existed and why the electoral body was yet to deregister the political parties in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act.
The Deputy Speaker presides over the final plenary for the week in the absence of the Speaker. One of the items up for debate is a motion calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission to implement Section 78, subsection 7(2) of the Electoral Act.
Failure of any political party to win at least one seat in the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly will result in the registration of the said political party. Concerned that since the commencement of Section 78(7)(2), this act has not fully been implemented, given the rising number of political parties in Nigeria.
After the motion is moved, the Chief Whip raises a point of order on the powers of the electoral body, to which the Deputy Speaker agrees.
The Supreme Court has made pronouncement in National Conscience Party vs. INEC, square to the pronouncement, interpretation of that law, that INEC does not have the power to deregister political parties because it is in clear violation of the Constitution that gave people the freedom of association.
I am very much intended with him. The primary function of a legislator is to make law. When it comes to interpretation, we cannot be the one to say, okay, this is the way to do about it. And then enforcing the law is not also domiciled in our own jurisdiction.
A lawmaker raises another point of order, this time in support of the motion, but the Deputy Speaker disagrees.
Even INEC is complaining. They're encumbered by some of these provisions. Let us know why it is not being put into effect.
The best way to cure, if the Supreme Court judgment have made a statement, is for us now to come back here, amend the law, and take it back. You can't go through the back door to achieve that one. It's not possible. I will rather beg you, sir, to step down this motion, allow us further input, study.
The motion is eventually stepped down. The House of Representatives has now adjourned till Wednesday, the 2nd of October, due to the observance of the country's independence on Tuesday, the 1st of October. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Now, for more perspectives on political party delisting, Mr. Festus Okoye, National Commissioner from INEC, Engineer Simon Adesina, the SDP Deputy National Secretary, and Mr. Peter Ahmed, Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. They all join us from our Abuja studio. We'd like to thank you all for joining us. We'll start with you, Mr. Festus Okoye. And the first question is, does INEC have the power to deregister political parties, especially non-performing parties?
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission has the constitutional power to deregister political parties that do not meet a certain threshold. This particular power has been given to the Commission by virtue of Section 225A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. If you recall, there was a fourth alteration to the Constitution, number 9 of 2017, which was assented to by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the 1st day of June 2018. That is the ground norm as of today. So Section 78, subsection 7A, which some people have been citing as the extant law as of today, is no longer a good law, because the Constitution has covered the field in relation to the power of the Independent National Electoral Commission to deregister political parties that do not meet a certain threshold. Moreover, some of the cases that were in court or that went to court that are being cited as the authority for the INEC's lack of power to deregister political parties is no longer good law, because those cases were decided based on the provisions of the Electoral Act as at then. But the Constitution has made specific provision giving the Independent National Electoral Commission the power to deregister political parties that do not meet a certain threshold.
Okay, because a case was cited by the House of Representatives, and that is the NCP versus INEC, saying that the Supreme Court said this was, it violated the constitutional provisions of freedom of association, saying that INEC doesn't have the power. But good thing you've made those clarifications. But something they also mentioned on the floor of the House is that INEC is responsible for the long list of political parties that we have, that if you have perhaps used your power given via the Constitution, we shouldn't have as much political parties as we did in the general election.
No. The Independent National Electoral Commission is a creation of the Constitution and a creation of the law. It is Section 222 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that gives or has given the Independent National Electoral Commission the power to register political parties that meet the conditions prescribed in the said section. And there are basically 6 conditions. And these are: 1, that the name of the political party must be registered with the Independent National Electoral Commission. 2, that this political party must have a constitution, and the constitution must be registered with the Independent National Electoral Commission. 3, that if there's any alteration in the constitution of the political party, such an alteration must be deposited with the Independent National Electoral Commission within 30 days of its being made. 4, that the symbol and the logo and other paraphernalia of the political party should not reflect any religious or ethnic bias. And the only tough condition, as far as I'm concerned, is the condition that says that such a political association wanting to be registered must have a registered office in the Federal Capital Territory. The moment a political party or a political association meets this threshold, the Independent National Electoral Commission does not have the constitutional power or the right or the discretion not to register such a political party.
Let's quickly take a break. We'll come back to you and to our other guests, please. We'll come back to talk about this discussion, and that is parties deregistration. Please join us again. Welcome back. Continuing with our discussions on parties deregistration. We've been talking to our guests who are in Abuja, Mr. Festus Okoye, National Commissioner, INEC, also Engineer Simon Adesina, the SDP National Deputy National Secretary, and also Mr. Peter Ahmed, Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IBAC. Now, Mr. Okoye has been talking about some of the reasons and giving his thoughts on the position of the Commission. Let's go over to you, the Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Mr. Ahmed, and that is your own opinion. Are you in support of deregistering non-performing political parties?
I think one of the mistakes we are making in this country is that we try to look for a shortcut solution to every issue that we have, and not looking at the proper way of putting the issue on the table and discussing it. When you talk about the registration of political party, INEC have deregistered political party before. Let me give you an instance. In 2007, INEC deregistered PRP. PRP went to court, defended the right for them to associate, the right for them to be part of a party that will protect their right and interest. They won that case. It took the former chairman of the commission, Professor Atairu Jega, a long time after filing for 48 and 49 for him to now reinstate them back and enlist them back as registered political party in Nigeria. Now, as we are speaking, Jega is in PRP. Imagine if those in those parties does not have enough interest in what they believe in. The PRP is a party that can drive their own belief, that can drive their own intention as it regards Nigerian development. Today, Jega won't be in a party that will claim that is Aminu Kanu follower. So one of the things that we're saying is that even the law that the National Commission of INEC has mentioned does not give a total right to register political party. Because INEC is not in charge in conducting all elections in Nigeria. All elections are conducted between two bodies who have the same constitutional power, the CX and the INEC, the State Independent Electoral Commission. And I speak to you, there is no election the CX is the greatest fraud fostered on our democratic system. They don't conduct election. There are no elections anywhere. There's in that requirement, that 4th alteration, section 9 that he's talking about, there's in that requirement that says that a party should at least win House of what they call it, a council or a chairmanship seat. As those elections be conducted, do we take the one in FCT that INEC conduct for area council as a general, interpretation for what the constitution is saying? So some parties are already in court trying to define this right and these principles. Because one of the things party does, party is supposed to be doing, you allow party to grow organically. As we speak in that same PRP, I won 2 House of Reps in Bauchi. If they had stayed without defending the freedom of association and the freedom and the principle of gathering that the constitution have freely given to them, today that won't arise.
Let's find out from...
There are parties winning election everywhere.
Let's find out from Engineer Additional his thoughts on this.
Power is not an end to itself. And INEC must be able to understand that we must allow parties to build up and grow organically, and then no party is being given any one error.
And in addition, weigh in on this, and that is also, if you see the record number of political parties seen in the last general election, some people have said that parties have become commercialized. What are your thoughts?
You can see all sorts of things in the internet. People can... Maybe it's not here.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Engineer
Please
Additional.
can you repeat the question again?
Okay, so
yes,
also weighing in on this with regards to INEC's powers to deregister political parties, some have said that, some of these political parties are commercialized.
Well, thank you so much. We must talk our ambient society here in Nigeria. Parties were being funded before by the government through INEC. But that has stopped. And since that has stopped, proliferation of political parties did not stop because people feel they will have their right to associate, which the Constitution guarantees. Whether it's commercialized or not, I wouldn't know what that means. But some of the parties, from our own experience on the field, do not have the capability to push through the agenda because the politics in Nigeria has been monetized. When I mean monetized, I mean in terms of even logistics for you to propel yourself as a party. You need to do a lot of publicity, you need to do a lot of canvassing, you need a lot of other things to do, and these things cost money. And some of these parties cannot meet that responsibility. Therefore, they may then tend to begin to support other parties. So to that extent, if you say that is commercialization, yes, it's happening, but that may not be the right thing to do.
Do you
the essence of a political party is to seek to win power so that they can propagate their ideas and their own manifesto.
So, and in addition, do you think INEC should deregister with regards to the number of parties that we have, the register based on the provision of the Constitution 225 sub A?
Yes, INEC will have to do what it has to do if it's empowered by law to do so. But what I want to add, by way of a caveat, is that we must take recognition of what is happening globally. Even in the United States, you do not have just those 2 or 3 political parties people know about. You have close to about 100 political parties in the United States. Ditto, United Kingdom. India has close to about 1,000. But the issue is regulation. So what I would suggest is that there should be a regulation as to who will be on the ballot paper. I think that is where the problem is coming. Because in the last election, you had almost 3 ballot papers with chains of parties for you to select just one. And where our educational system has not made everybody to be literate, it becomes a problem. I think that is the challenge we have. And I think we have to regulate those who will have to be on the ballot paper. That has to be developed. And I would suggest the political parties, the INEC, and other stakeholders should meet together and propagate a particular system that will determine who will be on a political party.
Okay, let's quickly get the 30 seconds from engineer, from Peter, Mr. Peter Ahmed, rather. Mr. Ahmed, a question to you is that shouldn't we advocate for maybe 2 major political parties, even maybe some independents? Some people have said that the number of parties we had were some of the reasons why we had voided votes in the last elections. 30 seconds.
You cannot advocate people's right into existence. If you allow these parties to grow and you allow them perform their functions. I disagree with him when he says that parties have become commercialized, because I know every other party who supported one party or the other. If you go all over the world, you will see what they call electoral alliance happening both in Germany, in Britain, and in UK. And if we want to talk about access to ballot, we must sit down as stakeholders and do a national electoral reform conference and be able to decide that elections should be clearly free, credible, and non-violent. And there'll be a process that it will be accommodating for every party to be able to have the opportunity to go to the field, to canvass for votes, and then be able to get that vote in return. So these are factors that are working against, multi-party democracy in Nigeria. I'm an unapologetic advocate for multi-party democracy. I can't change my views overnight, whether it favors me or not, because I have seen what it has done. Honorable Hembe was denied ticket from two major parties.
Let's quickly give Mr. Okoye the last word as we wrap up. Mr. Okoye, if you'd like to wrap up on some of their thoughts and also when INEC will begin deregistration.
Well, in relation to the issue of the registration of political parties, there are 3 thresholds. 1, any political party that has violated the conditions for its deregistration, we are going to do a yearly deregistration of political parties that violate the conditions for their deregistration. Secondly, political parties that fail to sponsor candidates for any elections are candidates for deregistration. But conclusively, the Commission will wait for the conclusion of all pending election petitions before we take the route of deregistering political parties that do not meet the threshold of having won certain number of votes or certain number of seats in the various state assemblies.
We'd like to thank you.
Elections.
We're out of time, but thank you all. Mr. Festus Okoye, Engineer Simon Adesina, and Mr. Peter Ahmed, thank you for joining the program. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.